That's already looking better. Okay, it's feeling more like ground to me. Okay. So now that I have this kind of scene set up where I can actually build my castle in, I could just come down here and start moving these to the pieces or the places they need to be. So my walls here, I could bring into my little castle here. Just kind of bring it into the center. And just move these around like they're any other piece, right? Bring these in, zoom in on it, and just start building it out, just like it's Legos, right? Here, duplicate it, turn this, put these together to build my walls of my castle. Maybe use some columns, the column right here, put that down there. All right, if your lighting's really harsh like mine is right now, I'm not really sure what's going on with my lighting. You can change the shadow ambience of that, so you can do that in your lighting settings, and we can go to, actually no, I'm sorry, under my directional light, I can go to my shadow. My intensity's way up there. What the heck? Shadow. You know what, let's just increase our ambience, general rendering. The very top of our lighting settings, if you ever need to increase the ambience of the look, we can go to our color, we can change that. I don't know why these shadows are so freaking dark, but anyways, mess with that. Right, so I'm going to come in here and just start adding some of these columns in here, and this is just, I'm just playing around, right? I'm coming in here and just building out a scene. I want you guys to get comfortable with that, like just taking these elements and building out a cool scene, whatever you think looks good. Right, this is why it's nice to use building blocks, because you can just start building out an entire level, you know, to whatever you're thinking, right? And if there's a certain wall segment you like that right there, I could just grab those elements. And let's see, where's the other one? And wall, column, all right, and just duplicate those. All right, maybe I'll put that over here. All right, maybe I'll come in here and add another, duplicate that, I'll add a third one. Now, very quickly you can start kind of putting things together based on whatever design you're trying to come up with. Right? So coming in here, putting these together. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's say I want to add my gate in here, so my gate was right here. Bring this guy down. Turn him around. Right. Start putting these pieces together, right? Now, one of the nice things, obviously, was with the walls and stuff, right? So you can reuse them for the front and the backs if you wanted to, or just keep them on one side so when they go in, they see the detail. But I could, you know, duplicate that to the other side, or, you know, like I said, I wanted to fill in these little gaps right here. So some of the nice things is if I reuse this wall and let's say I turn it around, I could use it on the back side if I wanted to of this particular wall, right, to kind of fill in that side. Put it right up to the edge right there. Or I could also use it to fill in the little gaps or these areas, right? So if this is going to match up with this front wall right here, I could come in and put this where this needs to be, let's say like right there, and then I could just grab the, if I open up my Probuilder window again, I could grab those, put this over here, I grab these verts and move that where that needs to be, right, to kind of fill in those little areas, right, kind of just bring it all together, right. So I'm like, hey, that looks good. I could get that perfect if I wanted to, but I'm just kind of throwing it in there for now. And I can just duplicate it, bring it over to the other side, turn it, right, and put it in. Right, so it's nice to use these pieces as you start to kind of, roughly put something together, because you can easily modify them to fill in little areas as needed, right? Move things around, kind of just push and pull as you start to get things to the desired locations, right? So kind of like a little Coliseum thing I'm building. I'm not even sure what this is. Okay, next thing you can do is, add a little bit of flair to this particular design. So we can do that just by first, stylizing it by adding some lights. You can come in with your lights, go in with some point lights, put those where those should be to kind of add a little bit of extra lighting to this. So let's say in the front right here, he's got, I don't know, maybe it's a little blue or something. All right. The design's obviously up to you guys. Just kind of messing around here. All right. Or even coming into, let's say, these little pyres and adding some lights in those for where we can put some particle effects like flames. Right? So let's say in here, I'm going to add a little add fire in these top parts where these are, right? And so what I could do on each of these is create a prefab or a particle effect of fire to kind of move around and put on each of these little columns right here, just to kind of make this pop a little bit more. And so let me go ahead and do that really quickly just to add a little bit of extra flair to the look of this. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this light, or actually I'll use this light as my base, and I'll make a game object underneath it. I'm going to call it a empty game object, and we'll put this as its parent. I'll put the light inside, and I'm going to call this fire effect, like that. And inside this effect, I'm going to go ahead and game object, make a effects, go to particle system. We'll put a little particle system in here. Now I know we haven't got heavy into particle systems yet, but what we can do is put this right into this light right here. So if I move this over, put this into this light, right about there, close enough, close. All right. We have all these different settings for particle effects, and in particle effects, the settings really dictate what the particle does and how it looks. But in here, right off the bat, if I'm messing with a particle effect, I can change its initial start color. So if I wanted to make it more like fire, I could make it, more yellowish. All right. Its base size, or the cone or the shape that it's emitting from, I can change that down in this shape setting right here. I can just come down and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to make this radius a little bit thinner right there, as well as its angle. All right. And then we can go ahead and mess with, there's all these different variables in here, but we can mess with things like its start speed. So 5 right now, maybe that's a little too much. Maybe I'll knock that down to 1. All right. And its start size. We can also do things like do size variance in our particle effects. And I might be going a little quick here, but don't worry about that. This will be this video will be up here for you guys to reference. So if I wanted to modify the start size, I can say, hey, you know what? Maybe let's change that to, we'll do random between 2 sizes. So we can do 2 and maybe, I don't know, like 0.5. So it's not always the same. And they have this really nice setting in terms of size over lifetime. So we can say, hey, when you start, you're big, but then when you finish, you're small. So if it's like a fire, that's pretty good. Maybe I'll crank these up a little bit more in its initial start size, so I'll make it bigger and smaller. All right, just so we fill that up a little bit more. And then they have this color over lifetime as well that we can use to really kind of drive home the color. So if we activate color over lifetime, we can say, hey, you know what, let's make your starting color red, or like more like yellowish, and then when you end, you're more of like a reddish. But also, you fade out at the end. All right? Just something simple like that for now. We'll put that particle effect into our fire effect right here. And what I can do is, I know we messed around with this briefly last week, but in my assets folder, if I drag this fire effect down and make it a prefab, right, this fire effect, I could then just drop this into my scene at other places. So now that I have that light, I can see where it's going to go. So I can put one right there. All right, let me go ahead and look at the tops of these quickly and just kind of raise that up a little bit. All right, put another one right here. All right, just kind of raise it up a little bit. Put another one over here. Raise it up a little bit. All right, just go around my little castle here and add in these little fires. All right, put one there. Could just duplicate it, bring it down if I need to. All right, put another one over here. Put another one over here. So then, where's my camera at? I move my camera. Let's move this up a little bit so we can see our castle and start our scene. All right, press play. You know, we've got these little fires going on top of our castle, right? That one's a little bit off, so I can fix that. But you know, right away you can start kind of adding these little elements to it and just making it better as you go, kind of thing. With our other pieces here, I can come in and obviously start building out the rest of this castle. So I can come in with my wall here or my little column, bring these guys in. All right. These little doors, I'll bring that in again if I wanted to. Maybe make that a back door. And I can fill that in with additional wall pieces or whatever, right? Let's just kind of drag some of this down here, grab my stairs. So all right, maybe I use that for, I don't know, part inside here that you got to run up to. Alright, so I'm just add some basic stuff in here really quickly. So duplicate this guy, maybe I'll bring him down into the ground a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit bigger. Okay. So let's say you want to start testing out your scene, right? So I've just got some basic stuff in here right now. I've got a basic little castle, whatever thing going on in here. And I actually want to run around in here. Let me go ahead and just style this up a little bit more. I don't typically like to use daytime as my lighting. I don't really like the default lighting that they have in Unity. Oh, let's grab these guys. Let's put these down there so they're not flying up in the sky. We'll just put these over here for now. Like I said, I don't typically like to use daytime. I think it just looks better if you start with like afternoon or nighttime. So what I'm going to do in here is, let me just put these guys over here so it looks cool. I'm going to change my lighting really quickly, and then I'm going to bring in a player controller so we can actually do stuff with this. Unity has a package of kind of pre-made assets that you're supposed to use like for a lot of your projects. The building blocks for your projects. And those have things like trees and nature and all kinds of other controllers and different stuff in there. So we'll go ahead and bring that into our package. But to do that, hold on, let me save really quickly so we have this. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new material for my skybox, which I'll come in here, call that skybox, and I'm going to change the shader settings on this skybox to be like, I don't know, nighttime. All right, I'll come in here, change this out, and we'll just turn that down a little bit. We'll do something a little more like that. Bring that skybox in my scene. Press play, it should, there we go, do something like that. Great. And go into this real quickly, and we'll just say pre-warm. If you play pre-warm on a particle effect, it'll always be running. So if I play my level, it doesn't like start up. It's just always there. Okay, so let's say that that's good and ready to roll with that, right? So in my scene, let's say I actually want to try it out, right? I want to put a player controller in there to actually test this out and start running around and doing stuff. To do so, first let me save really quickly. Inside Unity, if you type in, what's going on here? Unity Asset Store. There we go. What the heck? Dude, I think my Unity's like bugging out. Here, if I click search, there we go. Go standard, assets, and then find this package right here. It looks like it has all these different like pieces kind of connected together. It's made by Unity. Click that. I know it says for 2017, but it'll work in 2018. And it's free. Go ahead and import that into your package. This one takes a little bit. But this has everything like trees and nature and all kinds of stuff we can add into our projects just to kind of dress them up. Go ahead and let this import. So
like on the wall, since it's only one-sided and you walk through it and it's just reflecting on the other side, would it be better to model it and mirror it? So
you could do that and then like snap them together, or just not have anything. However you want to do it. A lot of times, what I do is I'll just make a base wall and I'll stick stuff on it to kind of like give it more detail, stuff like that. Yeah. So I'll make like little detailed pieces to just kind of like overlay over the top stuff. That works. Okay, so once this comes in, your standard assets, it has some player controllers in here that you can use, which are really nice. So I'm going to import, and there we go. Should be in my scene. So once you go back to your scene, you can put these in here to use and actually start playing out your level like right away. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this Probuilder window so I give myself a little more space here. Close tab. Okay. So in here, under standard assets, if you go to characters and then go to first person controller and then go to prefabs, if you just drop the first person FPS controller into your scene, it already has a camera attached to it, so you can go ahead and turn off your main camera in your scene. And then literally you just press play and you're off and running, right? So you can now start messing around with your level, just like you're in a first-person shooter game, and start playing your level right away. And to do that, that's in the you want to make sure you're in your standard assets to get this controller to start doing that. It's really helpful if you're prototyping, and then you can really start iterating, especially with Probuilder, right? You can start laying pieces in, start creating platforms, places to jump, all kinds of stuff, and then kind of using that palette of items that you've created for your castle or whatever to start filling in the rest of your level. So what's nice if I'm like, hey, you know what? Okay, that was cool, but let's use this piece right here. Or actually, we had a, what was that platform I had? The floor right here, right? So I could take this and say, hey, that was cool, but maybe we want to have some floating platforms right here. Shrink these guys down a little bit. Right away, just by playing, we could just literally iterate on the fly, right? So you're like, hey, how's that play out, right? I can run over here. That might be a little too high, actually, so maybe I need to bring that down a little bit. Let's bring this guy down a little bit right here. Play. Oh, let's bring it down. This guy down, this guy down. And again, play it out. Still a little too high. Oh, maybe not. There we go. All right. All right, so start kind of getting that play factor as you go and seeing how that plays out, right? And then doing things like modifying your terrain, adding more Probuilder pieces in to make it more exciting and fun and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot you can do there. Mess with the lighting. As you go and as you iterate on your level designs, you're going to be adding much more than just, these basic Probuilder pieces that are in here, but a lot that, will just help you in your designs as you go forward, right? Messing with lighting, saying, hey, when he's up here, it'd be cool if it was maybe, I don't know, blue or whatever, right? Now, the cool thing about the standard assets package is it has these nature pieces that are built into it. So if we click on our terrain that we created, right, you'll notice we have these other little buttons here. We've got trees and ground covering, things like that, right? If we click on trees, it says no trees defined. If we say edit trees, add tree, inside our standard assets, we need to find where those trees are. But if I come into my thing here, you'll see we have some that came in from that standard asset. So I've got this little broadleaf tree right here. I can select that, say add. Now I can come in and literally just click, bring my brush size down a little bit. Oh, it's loading. There you go. I can add some trees in, right? Make that a little more exciting than just some basic terrain. right? And then I can play that. And okay, got some trees in there, right? Start to kind of add a little more detail into our levels as we go, right? So there's a lot that you can do with that, and they've got a lot of different trees, and you can edit the type of, what the trees do. If I go to the actual tree, I search down here for broadleaf tree. They have a couple, and you can get a couple different ones off the asset store. There's paid ones, there's free ones. There's a lot of different tree. Here's a broadleaf. Well, it's a billboard desktop. Let's see. That looks like they only have the one for this, but a lot of cool stuff to use in here. You can you can start painting them around if you want to, and like add more clusters of them, things like that, right? You can go crazy. And they run really well because they're all based off the same engine. So, just little things like that kind of add a little bit more to it. And there is a whole documentation on how we want to create our own, if you want to create your own trees, things like that. There's a lot you can do with it. Just know you can add stuff like that too. But really right now, all I want you guys to do is just experiment with Probuilder. This was just kind of obviously a crash course demo. I wanted to put this whole thing in a video so you guys have just a base framework to follow from. But typically when I make something, I start with Probuilder. I have a lot of pieces. Initial kind of palette of stuff I build, and then from there, I can use those pieces to kind of flesh out my level more and start adding a bunch more stuff. Right. This is obviously super rudimentary and simple, but there's some base stuff here to actually start creating some type of playable framework with, right? The more you play with Probuilder, the more kind of stuff you can make. And I'll bring in some advanced projects that I've done, like really, really in-depth work in the next class, so you guys can see like the extent of where you can really take Probuilder and the type of stuff you can do, especially if you're doing like room design and stuff like that. There's a bunch of really good tutorials online for Probuilder and setting things up. So be sure to check those out, and I'll post them up on the announcements for you guys. I did this like demonic castle a while back that turned out pretty rad, so I'll show you guys that too.